It's once again the Euroyard, and what do we have here? Why, it's our review and scores from the 1966 Eurovision Song Contest. You can check out our prior reviews on the YouTube channel here, to which you should totally subscribe, by the way, and also at theeuroyard.com. We watched, scored, and re-ranked every single song in this contest as we usually do. For this video, for the first time, we'll go into a little bit more depth in our rankings of the songs based off of various categories. We used to just give you the top 3 or 5 for a few categories. Now we're going to show you every song's rankings. What are those categories? Well, here's our scoring rubric, which we've shown you in prior videos, but we're reminding you here. The specific categories will show you score rankings for our overall impression, engagement, the combined vocal score, the combined composition score, and soon we'll get into staging. Not this year, though, as it's still not as big of a factor as it will soon become. We're going to bust out the ESE Deservometer again, looking a little different this time, but still the ratings that you know and love. Why do we do this? To let you know if the jury's underrated a song, overrated a song, or somehow they got it right. They didn't always, that's for sure. Before we get into the introductory notes, it's scoreboard time. On my sides now is the Euroyard scoreboard through the 1965 contest. We give 12 points to our top country each year, then 10, 8, 7, and so forth. Entering this contest in 1966, Italy had a narrow lead over Switzerland, but the United Kingdom has been catching up quickly into third place. Watch on to find out where our points are going next. On to the 1966 contest, and here are the notes. This was in Luxembourg as France Gall won it for them in 1965, the second time they had hosted, as it was the second time they had won. It took place on Saturday, March 5th, 1966, and was the 11th Eurovision Song Contest. There were 18 countries, and they were all the same as the ones from the year prior. Next year, one country will drop out, that's Denmark, and it won't be until 1971 that we get any new countries. In fact, there's some turmoil coming in future contests, so just get ready for that. What else is there to do but get directly into it? We start with our last place song from 1966, number 18, it's France. Sorry, France. With the song Chez Nous by Dominique Walter. And that means At Home. I was unimpressed, I have to say, and the predominant emotional response I had during the song was boredom. France can and has done better than this, so you will forgive me if I don't slather praise on where it's not deserved. On the score sheet, it was 17th in overall impression, meaning one song was actually worse, but I gave it the lowest score in the group in terms of both engagement and vocals. In terms of composition, I actually had this tied for 8th, so that's at least respectable, but not enough to save it. The juries agreed that this wasn't any good, sticking it in 16th, so welcome back to the main stage, the ESE Deservometer, which holds that they found correctly, and this song landed just about right. In 17th, we have Finland and Anne Christine's song Playboy. Oh god, this sound did not age well. Kind of like Tippy T from 1962, but not as aggressively irritating. In some future contests, long before you might think, I will become a defender of particular Finnish entries that got shafted, but not this one. I think I've made my stance on this song clear. It was pretty unremarkable and uninteresting songwriting, but at least it was kind of fun in its own way. We had it ranked 15th for overall impression and composition, 11th on vocals, and tied for 2nd on engagement, so at least they have that going for them. This song finished tied for 10th on the night, so it's time for the ESE Deservometer to pass judgment, and we feel that this one was a little bit overrated. I certainly don't go out of my way for this one. At number 16, we had the Swiss song by Madeleine Pascal, Ne vois-tu pas, which means Don't You See. My main issue with this song was that it was kind of a snooze. And when you get to this point, having already had 11 Eurovision Song Contests, there are just some sounds that you've heard at the contest before. I'm looking for something else that breaks new ground. This did not do it. So we had them with some consistently low ratings. The composition and lyrics were at least in the top 10, but Switzerland finished in the bottom 5 in others, including a tie for 2nd to last in engagement. Inexplicably, this song finished 6th in the contest, so we have consulted the ESE Deservometer, and it should not be a surprise. It found this song to be very overrated. Moving on to number 15, we had the song by Portugal, Madalena Iglesias, and her number, Ele e Ela, which means him and her. It kind of sounded like Twist and Shout by the Beatles when you started listening to it, which might have made it sound decent, but I'm also looking for originality. It was fine, not like it was terrible or anything like that, but it failed to make a big impression. And let's be clear, Portugal has had better entries. At least it was upbeat, which helped it tie for second on engagement, but it didn't land in the top 10 in any other category. It finished 13th on the night in 1966, so here comes the ESC's Deservometer to agree with the jury's findings that it finished about where it should have. Up to number 14 on the big list, and we are awarding that spot to Germany with Margot Esken's song Die Zeiger der Uhr, which means the hands of the clock. Let me start by saying I didn't want this song in 14th. I actually kind of liked it. But the difference between 14th and 10th place on our scorecard was only 4 points. And the most subtle differences determined who got our points and who didn't. I found the melody interesting, but unfortunately this was just also a little too dull. It was 16th on engagement, and yeah, the vocals weren't that amazing, but I think the song had unrealized potential to be decent. This made it into a tie for 10th at the 1966 contest. So what does the ESC Deservometer think? Well, even though the song came in 14th in our card, it thinks the song finished about where it should have anyway. Now we get to number 13, and no, it is not the British song yet. It's Denmark and Ulla Pia's song, Stop Mens Lion Go, which translates to Stop While the Game is Going Well. This also was one of the first songs, if not the first, where there were backup dancers on stage with the main act. In the Dutch song later, there were others on stage, and that has been done in the past, but they weren't dancing. If nothing else, at least Denmark broke the seal on something that will happen frequently in the contest's future. It wasn't a terrible song, and it was entertaining. I actually didn't hate the composition. Where this came up short was in terms of its vocals, which were not strong, and I don't think a punchy, faster-paced song like this lends itself to really being a vocal showcase. So that was the trade-off that they made. Unfortunately, as we mentioned, it was a few points short of getting into our top 10. This placed 14th in the contest, so it should not be that surprising that the ESC Deservometer has determined that this song's placement was about right. Okay, now we've made it to the British song at number 12, and this is A Man Without Love by Kenneth McKellar, the song that went last in 1966. This is one of the more notoriously disliked British entries because of how seriously it took itself. I mean, look at the costume he wore, and maybe how over-embellished it was. Again, costume. Aside from the fact that the contest was heading in a different direction at this point, the song just did not get with the times. This song might have worked a decade earlier. Maybe. They'll make up for it in 1967. Back to this song, they had the whole Phantom of the Eurovision thing going on, but it simply couldn't finish in last because the vocals were that good. It finished in first. Aside from whatever other critiques you may have of the song, he did sing really well, and that deserves a fair ranking. We had it near the bottom in almost every other category. The ESC Deservometer debated this, if it's even capable of doing so. But for a song that came in 9th, the final rating was that this song was ever so slightly overrated. The song in 11th kind of pains me, kind of. And just missing our top 10 was Italy, and Domenico Modugno's song Dio Come Ti Amo, which means God, how I love you. It disappoints me because we consider his song from 1958 to be one of the best Eurovision songs ever. His second song wasn't as good, and then this, his third and final entry, was the weakest of them all. Honestly, it was kind of weird. While I give Domenico credit for doing something different, I didn't like what he came up with, despite his vocals still being of quality. This song had a trippy vibe to it, which, I mean, it was the 60s. But surely he had something better up his sleeve than this, but I guess not. He didn't actually use the orchestra for the song, and he almost quit the day before the contest. It's a story you should read about sometime. All that for nothing anyways. The song came in last at the contest, so the ESC Deservometer said it deserved a little better, but not much. We move into our top 10, and these countries will be adding points on our all-time scoreboard. In 10th place, with 1 point, it's Belgium with Tonia's song, Un peu de poivre, un peu de sel, which might make you a little bit hungry because it means a little pepper, a little salt. However, the song is about love, like about 90% of other Eurovision songs in this era. It's one of those songs that initially I didn't think the 60s sound was aging that great, but I've come to accept it a little bit more. Was it an annoying song? Sure. Which is why it didn't go higher than 10th. Well, that and the vocals. But at least we can say it was a little bit different. Now, this song came in 4th at the contest, which is probably a little too much based on the body of work. So the ESC Deservometer has determined this was a little overrated. Top 10, yes. Top 5, no. In 9th, receiving 2 points, we have Ireland's second entry, performed by Dickie Rock, Come Back to Stay. Sadly, Dickie left us late in 2024. The score sheet for this song was a little bit messy because I thought he sang pretty well, but the song he had to work with wasn't anything to write home about. So that's ultimately why it didn't end up higher. It was one of the more dull songs in the contest, though I didn't know that it was supremely dull in and of itself. But in comparison, yes. My main issue, however, was that the composition was lacking. This was a weak song lyrically, and a word that I would use to describe it is corny. Hey, you know, they can't all be winners, but this song tied with Belgium for 4th. So when we get to the ESC Deservometer, its fate for Ireland is cruel in that it says this song was a little bit overrated for the reasons cited. We get up to 8th and we find the Netherlands and Millie Scott and her song Fernando and Filippo. They get 3 points this year. Scott made history in 1966 as the first black person to perform at the Eurovision Song Contest. You know what? This song was never going to be good enough to win, and it wasn't intended to be taken seriously. But did you have fun? It was engaging, it was light, and I didn't know what the hell was going on, but it had a good energy to it. The lyrics were not that amazing, but I appreciate that Millie and the Dutch took a risk with this song. It did not do well in the contest, coming 15th, but the ESC Deservometer is here to set this straight and declare that this song deserved a little bit better than the fate it received. In 7th place, getting 4 points, we've got Luxembourg and Michel Torre's song Ce soir je t'attendais, which means Tonight I Was Waiting for You. Obviously, I think the song was all right, and this was the first one we've revealed so far that finished in the top 10 in all of our categories. It landed in the top 5 in our composition and lyrics categories, and I think this was one of those songs that got better as it went along. I don't think it was the most exciting song this year by a long shot, but it was good enough to keep my attention. Yet, what does the ESC Deservometer think of this song, which finished in a tie for 10th on the night? Because of its relative consistency in our rankings, it has determined that this song actually deserved a little bit better. Up to 6th place and getting 5 points, we're giving those to Yugoslavia and the song Brez Besed, or No Words in Slovenia by Berta Ambrosch. To use an American idiom, Yugoslavia in this contest has been the red-headed stepchild. The ignored and overlooked country, which will have to wait until the 1980s to be taken seriously before the country fell apart. But anyway, for Berta, the situation in 1966 was no different than for many others who would follow. We didn't think the composition was the most worthy, but we rated her as one of the best vocalists of the night, which can take a song a long way. When we turn to the ESC Deservometer, on behalf of the former nation of Yugoslavia and her current country, Slovenia, we say that this song, which finished in a tie for 7th, landed just about right. In 5th place, collecting 6 points for Norway, was Åsa Kleveland, and her song was called Intet nytt under solen, or Nothing is New Under the Sun. Fun fact about her, coming in 3rd in 1966, she attained Norway's best ranking until 1985, when they won the contest, and then she hosted it the following year. Norway suffered for a long time in this contest, but this was one of the bright spots. We rated it our second favorite song overall, which made up for slightly lower rankings in other categories. This song, guitar in hand, was very different. Other countries went for big and bold, while she went all in on understated but intriguing folk music. It worked. Another fun fact, Cleveland was only 17 when she did Eurovision, and I'd say it went well. Not to belabor it, but the ESC Deservometer says her placement was deserved. Just 4 left to go now, and in 4th place, 7 points, we have Monaco. This was called Bien plus fort, or Much Stronger, performed by a Yugoslavian singer that we will see again later. Teresa Kesovia. One Yugoslavian singer in this contest got some recognition, but this one did not, and it really chaps my ass, frankly. We had Teresa as the second best vocalist in the contest, which helped it soar. Our main issue with this song was in the combined composition and lyrics category. If you had to read through the lyrics, they're not that special. It's fairly repetitive and doesn't really build on the imagery she's talking about with how these two lovebirds feel about each other. Still, she's a great singer and had an amazing career post-Eurovision, so I'm glad for her. Her vocal score was so high that it put her in 4th place here. She finished tied for last, though, and the ESC Deservometer is having absolutely none of it, saying that Monaco deserved much better in 1966. Into the top 3 now, and in 3rd place, getting 8 big points, it's the Spanish song. Rafael performed the song Yo Soy Aquel, which means I am that one. He's going to appear at Eurovision again next year with a better song, but where will that one land? You'll just have to watch that video once we get around to making it. Anyway, this song pulled in strong marks across the board. Rafael is another one who's gone into a great career after Eurovision, and he's got a lot of passion when he sings. Even though it's yet another song about love, he really ropes you in. Sure, the lyrics were kind of basic, what else is new? But the song had a pretty good arrangement and it felt fresh to me. Spain came in for a tie for 7th in this contest, but what does the ESC Deservometer think? It said that this song deserved a little bit better, but it was far from getting screwed. Only 2 songs left, and in 2nd place, getting 10 points, we have Sweden with their best song to date. Lil Lindfors and Svante Thuresson performed Nigamal Vals, meaning New Old Waltz, as in the dance. I promise you will see Lil again in the future, but as the host of the contest in 1985, and frankly, one of the best contest hosts that we've ever had. In fact, there are parallels between her and Norway's Åsa Kleveland. Both finished in the top 3 in this contest, and both would go on to host the contest actually in back-to-back years, 1985 and 1986. As for 1966, Lil paired up with Svante Thuresson, and they turned out an interesting song. Truth be told, I far preferred Lil's vocals in the duet, but I think with both of them, you could tell that they were playing off of each other and that they were putting some attitude into it. Then you had the flute, and I think that really worked well also. Finally, you get to the lyrics, and there's a reason we had this rated as the top composition. They are wild. Some literal translations include, drinks from the stream, lives on dirt. If you have a penny in your pocket, you can stand to be lazy. You were a cheeky one, don't get any gold. But I want to drum on your pot. We have other songs in the contest that be like, I like love, love is lovely, I love to love you. And then Sweden came in piping hot. They finished 2nd in 1966, so not surprisingly, the ESC Deservometer says this song finished right where it should have. That leaves just one country, Austria, and getting our 12 points for 1966 was the winning song, Merci Chérie by the great Udo Jürgens. The song's title is French, meaning thank you, darling, but the rest of the lyrics are in Austria's native language, German. Udo represented Austria 3 years in a row, and the 3rd time was finally the charm for him. Granted, I didn't give the lyrics that high of a score, and a read-through of them would tell you why, but in terms of the quality of the music, it was a top-notch effort by him. Udo was a pioneer. He was the first person to play the piano at the contest. He could sing, he could play that piano, and he could write music. This song was touching and heartfelt, and it's easy to see why it won the 1966 Eurovision Song Contest in a rout. The ESC Deservometer obviously agrees with this placement. To recap the top scores in each category, we start with overall impression, or what is in essence our favorite song rankings. Austria won this by a comfortable margin for us, while Norway and Sweden tied for 2nd. Spain came in 4th, and the Netherlands, perhaps surprisingly, was in 5th. In the engagement category, measuring how interested we were in the song or if it didn't hold our attention, topping that category was Belgium, followed by a very unprecedented 5-way tie for 2nd. Austria, Sweden, the Netherlands, Portugal, and Finland. Then we move on to combined vocals. We combined the ratings and overall impression of the vocals and vocal skills and abilities, and we came up with this. The United Kingdom had to get number 1, so at least there's that. Then Monaco came in 2nd, Spain was in 3rd, Yugoslavia was in 4th, and Austria finished in 5th. Finally, we combined the composition and lyrics categories, and this was our top 5. Sweden took home first, while Austria was in second. Belgium, for serving something new, came in third, and then we had Luxembourg in fourth, Spain doing pretty well in fifth. Moving on to the contest end notes. I wouldn't say this was my favorite contest, but it wasn't a horrible one either. You could see signs that Eurovision was changing by 1966. It was migrating towards pop music, but it was not a quick transition. It was Austria's first win at the contest. They would not win again for almost another 50 years. And as a side note, I'm glad Udo lived long enough to see his country win again, though sadly he died just before Austria hosted the contest again in 2015. There was a nice tribute to him at that Eurovision Song Contest. We had our first black person to perform at the contest, and a black female at that, so Eurovision made a little history. We also had 2 future hosts appearing in the same contest. This would be Denmark's last appearance until 1978. Even though they had only won the contest a few years earlier, there was no appetite at the national broadcaster to continue. It would take over a decade for that mentality to change. Finally, as we do with every rating video, we update the all-time scoreboard, which you now see on the sidebars. Austria's Deux Points moved them into 7th place, but Italy remains out in front of Switzerland by 3 points. Neither landed in our top 10 this year, and neither did the 3rd or 4th countries on our list, so this was a good year for other countries to catch up to them. The Dutch are in 5th place. Spain has finally gotten into double digits, and I promise better days are ahead for the 3 countries at the bottom. That was the contest in 1966, and for more Eurovision history, visit theEuroYard.com and follow us on your favorite social media platforms, except the ones we don't want to use, not those ones.